Are you listening? Damn.
Another episode of Trash Talk. TJ O'Connor, as always, with me, my partner Damian, the Wolverine Hill. We're joined tonight by Carl, the Nish Kid, Deaton the Third, who took a short notice fight this weekend. Trash Talk is sponsored, as always, by Valhalla Combat Sports Incorporated, Ink Shrinks Tattoo. How you doing today, Carl?
Everything's good, man. Appreciate Trash Talk.
Oh, man, we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. I'm always hesitant to reach out, especially on fight week, because I know what goes into it, the work that guys put into that weight cut. But talking to you here, this is the one that came on short notice, and there's not too much of a weight cut for you. Is that correct?
Yep. Now fighting at 160 this Saturday.
So how did this fight fall into place for you? It sounds like you were just home visiting family away from training camp and got the call.
Pretty much. It's back on my res up north on the Sioux Ste. Marie tribe. And the promoter up there, Big Johnny, he said needed a fight. I threw my credentials at him, and he matched it up. And then with weight, it was, it wasn't going to be 45 with 2 weeks, and I told him that. And the guy was just coming off a 55 fight, so we met at 60, and we're throwing down this Saturday.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good. So when fighters take fights on short notice, the question always is, how hard were you training? How has everything been going, especially taking a fight on short notice? But from you being down in Florida, I'm assuming that you're down there just training every single day. So this might be a short notice fight, but how do you feel going into it?
Yeah, I feel good, man. It was short notice. Yeah, how they say short notice because it wasn't scheduled. But some of my best fights are come off short notice and against wrestlers, and some of my best fights come off being projected. You're gonna fight in 8 weeks. So I was training as hard as in Florida, but I'm still training up here as I was in Florida, and it was just like the perfect timing.
Oh yeah, I love that. And then so it's like the stars are kind of aligning. Aligning for a fight. You are the main event, am I correct?
No, I think I'm co-main.
Okay, co-main. So being co-main event on a bigger card, coming just kind of just falling right into place. Like, how does that feel? Like, do you just feel like it's just another day at the office? I can't really. I kind of lost where my question was going right there. Sorry.
Go with it. I'm curious. What are you trying to ask?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to ask, like, with the fight just kind of falling into place, does that have any extra pressure, or does that take pressure off? Because you don't really have time to sit and think too much on like, oh, what if I do this? What if he does that? Things like that. You just kind of go with the flow right into the fight. Is it something like that?
Pretty much. This guy's 12-4 and I'm 15-3, and I've watched a couple of videos, so I know what I'm getting into. I know what kind of fighter he is, and it's just like that. You just go into it and scrap, and come out victorious.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to touch on this fight is, you've won 3 in a row now, 7 out of your last 8, and you are taking, you're fighting tougher competition. It feels like every time out. Is this something to where you feel like, a strong performance here, you're just going to keep going what's next? Or how far do you think you are away from getting, a call to, a stronger promotion?
Oh, man, I've been on the call list, and I want to be on the call list tomorrow, fellas. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to be around waiting around and catching, what I'm saying? I'm just not a fighter, just wait around. And so I feel like this is a good opportunity. He's 12-4. Put me in the show right now. Put me in the show after I win 12-4, after I beat a 12-4 guy, and then UFC, those guys are going to be there as well. So I'm excited, and I'm ready to be on the next level. And I'm excited for this fight. It's back in my hometown res. And I definitely, the main goal is to be world champion. And if I have to beat this guy to get in, then hell yeah, I'm going to do it. I don't want to sit around and just wait for a call, because there's millions of guys doing that, thinking that same shit. And I don't think it's right. And I don't think it's real,
Yeah. Well, so going against your opponent, what type of fight are you expecting?
Oh, I think he's going to try and grapple me hard. He dives in for legs, and, he's a wrestler, definitely. Strong top game and good balance.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Sorry, go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned how he's going to try to come wrestle you. That's something that, you're very familiar with yourself. So, this is something to where it's going to come down to, you think it's going to be the prototypical where you get 2 wrestlers turn into a striking fight, or do you think once your hands start going, he's not going to want anything to do with that?
I think both. I think that wrestling is going to cancel out. My wrestling credentials, I would say, is shit compared to most people's that are in the fight game right now. But my MMA wrestling and my scrambling ability is very high level. And that said, coaches around the world.
Yeah.
And this guy, what I've seen, I've been on hips on, some strong guys, Olympians, and I've had guys shoot on me, so I felt it and I know what to feel and I know how to cut that corner. And I'm pumped for this fight. And I do think my boxing is better than this man's. I've seen his fights. He doesn't know how to throw correct just yet. That being said, it's MMA and 4-ounce gloves can fucking come from left field and get caught. So I respect, saying my hands are going to be up, my chin's tucked, but my striking ability, I feel like, is way over this man's head right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, TJ.
No, you go ahead.
Interrupting you.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is because, I like how you mentioned, you've been working so much on your boxing, on your striking, because for the Minnesota fans who might remember, when you were local in Minnesota, you were known for your wrestling, known for your top game. But one of the things I've noticed just following you throughout these years, the fans of the show know I'm a nerd. When I find someone who I believe has talent, I follow their career left and right. And the one thing I've been seeing from you is you have been working on your striking, working with some of the best boxing coaches down at ATT Florida. I've seen videos of you, training with the highest level of guys. How do you feel like your hands have progressed in the last couple of years to where fans that have seen you maybe earlier in your career, if they were to watch this fight this Saturday, are they looking at a different Carl Deaton?
Always, man. I feel like I'm getting better every fight. And I'll tell you this, and this is just being honest. Back in Minnesota, as opposed to when I was training in Minnesota, as opposed to when I'm training now, is I did not know how to fight. I knew how to grapple. I knew how to take motherfuckers down. I knew how to ground and pound. But to stand there and set traps and footwork and angles, like there was no world for me in that just yet. And training back here on the res, I had my boxing coach, Tommy Chamberlain. And what it was just, just dialing in more and more repetitions, and getting better and finding my style and my balance on the feet. And now, years later in the game, I'm still fighting. And now it's been turning over and clicking and being around some of the best in the world, some of the best minds in the world, and only, putting those puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, it's a scary thing when you get a grappler who's comfortable on the ground, comfortable taking a guy down, who all of a sudden gets comfortable on their feet and starts setting things up. Now where do you go? Now what do you do? But going in this fight feeling so comfortable, without giving away too much of a game plan, what's the highlight reel finish or the highlight way or the best way you see yourself finishing this fight?
Oh, man, I would see if I could predict every time, first round KO, in and out. And I've never had a KO. So, I'm not going in there chasing it, but I definitely know it's more possible now as opposed to, back then.
Yeah, hell yeah.
just believing in my stand-up, believing in my striking. And not only that is my distance and adjustments, what this guy, most people when they fight, they don't sit on their punches and they'll run, so it's easier to counter or to evade.
Yeah. Some people say too, knowing where like your opponent's range and all of that will help you out in the fight. But I think a big part of it is knowing exactly where you need to be to land the punch, because all you really got to do is you got the head movement, you got the blocking ability, know where you need to be to land the punch. And from what I've seen with some of your training partners, Dustin Poirier being one of those guys, because I've seen you on the countdown working with him.
Savage. He's a beast.
Is that, yeah, hell yeah. Is this something that you think that you've picked up from working with guys like that? Is just knowing where you need to be to land that punch?
Definitely. After every training session, I make it a point just to ask a question. I don't give a shit how stupid it sounds. And I'm asking, okay, if this landed, like, what's your counter to this? What is, if this jab doesn't come back, are you parrying coming over? What happens if they parry yours? And just those questions with those high level guys, because what happens is, they've seen the shit before and their reactions and their timings and setup just work, so it's like, it's a game of chess. So how do I get my pieces? How do I push my pieces further,
Oh yeah. I like the way you put that.
Hell yeah.
No, I agree. And like you mentioned, no matter how silly the question, I feel like when you're talking to minds that are at the highest level, there are no silly questions. You got to pick that any way possible. And you mentioned just talking to guys that have been there, done it. You can do something in the gym 1,000 times, but when you talk to someone that, has seen it happen, has shown it, has made it work themselves, it's a different level of focus. Going into this fight here now, you mentioned the wrestling credentials. You're at where you're at. 3-fight winning streak here. Coming on short notice, you're always in the gym training. What do you expect with, like Damian said, without giving away a game plan or anything like that, what do you need to bring to the cage to make sure your hand gets raised this Saturday night?
Just myself. Like any fighter could tell you, if the best version of me shows up, I'm going to win. And that's just exactly what it is. I'm training. I fought the best guys in the best states all over, and this is no different. This is a guy coming from another state, Wisconsin. He's one of the best, and I plan to take him out just the same. If I just show up and make weight, and it's game over. I cannot put it on anyone else but myself. I took the fight. I'm ready to fight, and it's about to be a show.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't have said any better right there. That probably the perfect way to sum this up. You cut that perfectly. Just before we wrap it up, Carl, is there anybody you want to thank leading up to this camp, sponsors, anything like that?
Yo, man, I want to thank Trash Talk. Appreciate you guys taking the time and having me on the show. I appreciate it, and send Minnesota love. Hell yeah. I hope you guys have a nice winter this year, man. I remember the negative 60s.
Oh my God. Yeah, the winter's gonna suck, but we really appreciate you being on Trash Talk. Trash Talk is nothing without the fighters.
Yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate your time, Carl. Look forward to following your career, man, and best of luck this Saturday night.
Thanks, fellas.
Damn. Yeah.